So, hello, here we are with our second lesson about Shakespeare and music, Shakespeare and Giuseppe Verdi. Today we shall start talking about Othello, the second tragedy used by Verdi for an important opera. Let's start, as we did last time, with the plot. Um, Othello is known all over the world as the tragedy of jealousy, and it is obviously the tragedy of jealousy, even if, as we shall see, there will be several levels, several meanings hidden below the surface. But why the tragedy of jealousy? Well, because everybody knows that Othello killed his beloved wife, Desdemona, because he was convinced by Iago, his helper, of the betrayal of Desdemona. It was everything was invented by Iago, nothing was true, but Othello could not be independent in his decisions and in his choice, and was so led to the murder, to the crime. The first act starts in Venice. Um, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth instead will have Cyprus, the island of Cyprus, as their setting. So there is a sort of unity of place apart the first act. In fact, when Boito, who was the librettist of this opera for Verdi, when Boito and Verdi organized the uh, plot of the opera, they eliminated the first act. So now I'm going to talk quite in a detailed way of the first act. But remember that in the opera we shall start from the second act. Anyhow, nothing of what described in the first act of the tragedy will be lost in the opera. It is the information given in the first act will be given in the opera, and nothing is going to be lost. We said that the action starts in Venice. Why Venice? Well, Venice was an international city in that period. It was a meeting point between the Eastern and the Western cultures. It was a place where a black man, because remember, from the very beginning, the audience of the tragedy knew that the main character of Othello was going to be a black man. The complete title was Othello, the Moor of Venice, Othello, il Moro di Venezia. So it was the only place where a black man could have an important position in the society, could be a general. Othello was the general of the Venetian fleet. So he had reached the top of the Venetian society and was really very important for the Republic. But there is also another reason. Venice had colonies in the Mediterranean Sea, and this made it possible to move the action from Venice to another place, Cyprus in this case. And then there is the third reason, which is the typical element of Venice. For what is Venice well known all over the world? It is the city of water, and water is the natural element which is central in this tragedy. We have Venice, the city of water, and then we have Cyprus, an island, a piece of land surrounded by water. Why water? Well, water covers the surface. We don't see the bottom. We can see it, but not as it really is. Because if we put our hand into the water to touch the bottom, we suddenly realize that the bottom is far away, it's not that close, maybe it's 2, 3, 4, 5 meters far. And moreover, if you put a stick into the water, what does the stick look like? It looks as if it were broken. And if you want to see it straight, you must break it. So, this is very important. Moreover, in Italian we say falso come Giuda. In English, they say as false as water. Keep it in mind, because this will be quite important. So, Venice. The time of the action is night. This is quite unusual because usually the time of the theater is the daytime, is the time when things happen, and very seldom we have situations set at night. Instead, Othello opens and closes at night. Also, this is very important because night is the time of dreams, is the time of the unconscious, is the time when our unconscious desires and thoughts and ideas come to the surface, and in this way we can start to understand that in Othello, illusion is the main uh, character. What happens on the stage is not real, is just built up by someone, and this someone is Iago. So nothing real happens on the stage till the very end when a lot of characters die, otherwise it wouldn't be a tragedy. But uh, for the most of the tragedy, we are in front of imaginary situations. Imagined by whom? Imagined by Iago and transported by Iago into Othello's mind thanks to his ability. He's very skilled, he's really clever, and is able to control the mind of his master uh, in order to convince him of his lies. Lies vuol dire menzogne. So, the opening of a tragedy is different from Macbeth. In Macbeth, we had the supernatural, the three witches on the stage in a desolate land, lightings behind them, and it was a way of trapping the attention of the audience, a very, very effective way of trapping this attention. Instead, in Othello, we have another device, the so called in medias res, in the middle of things. That is, something happens on the stage, but this action has already started before, and so the audience wants to know why are the two characters entering the stage, why are they quarreling, what's the reason, what has happened, and in this way the audience is again trapped and wants to know why are the two characters quarreling, and who are they? They are Iago, who is the helper of Othello, who should have become his lieutenant, but Othello, instead of choosing him, who was a real brave and expert soldier, Othello preferred another man, Cassio. And at the beginning, Iago says, I hate Othello because of that. That place, that rank should have been mine. Instead, it has been given to another man. And this is not right. This is unfair, injusto. The other man is Rodrigo. Rodrigo is a young Venetian from an important, rich Venetian family, and he's in love with Desdemona, the daughter of Brabantio, who has already. Brabantio is a senator, he's a very important man in the Republic of Venice, and he has already refused the love of Rodrigo for his daughter. So Rodrigo turned to Iago in order to have help and in order to have Desdemona for himself. So now we have already named the main characters of this tragedy: Othello, the general, Brabantio, the senator, Iago, Othello's servant, Othello's helper, Rodrigo, and Cassio. Cassio, who is now Othello's lieutenant. And obviously Desdemona, the only woman, the girl. Desdemona is very young. She's 14, 15 years of age, remember, because, well, we usually don't think how young the characters of Shakespeare can be. And Desdemona is like Juliet in Romeo and Juliet, that is a girl, a little girl today, but at the time she was already a woman. She was considered as a woman. Iago and Rodrigo are quarreling because Rodrigo has come to know that Desdemona and Othello have eloped, hanno fatto la fuitina, sono scappati. And now they are married, secretly married. So Iago and Rodrigo go in front of Brabantio's home and start shouting, screaming, denouncing the elopement of Othello and Desdemona. Brabantio doesn't believe them, but when Iago says, well, go to your daughter's room and see. If she's there, we were wrong. But if she's not there, what shall you do? And Brabantio goes, and Desdemona is not at home. She has really gone away. So Brabantio runs to the Duke, il Doge, in order to have Othello arrested, condemned, and imprisoned. But while he's running to the Duke, a messenger from Cyprus arrives and tells the Duke that the war between Venice and Turkey has just started. So the Republic must immediately send the fleet towards Cyprus and Turkey. And the only man who can do it is Othello. Up to this moment, Othello has never been called by his name. He has been called with insults by most of the characters. Okay, Brabantio, the furious father, denounces him as a wizard, as a man who uses witchcraft in order to seduce Brabantio's innocent and coy and shy little girl. Iago called him with racial insults, calling him thick-lipped, il labbrone, or black ram, il montone nero, or black horse, il cavallo, lo stallone nero. That is all sexual and racial insults. And also the Duke and everybody on the stage call him just the general, the Moor, but never Othello. So this man, who is not considered a man, who is considered a sort of animal, a beast, with no feelings but just with instincts, enters the stage. And when he enters the stage, well, he is really different from what the other people are describing him, the way the other people are describing him, because he is brave, he is strong, and he speaks in an elevated language, and he is really like a classical hero. He uses the same language the classical hero used in the past. He uses hyperboles and images which are full of beauty and greatness. So he's completely different from the way Iago, especially Iago, describes him and imagines him. And Othello explains the Duke how he has conquered Desdemona. And what does he say? He says that when he used to go to Brabantio's home, because he was a friend of Brabantio, Brabantio used to ask him to tell the story of his life, and he did it. And his life had been a terrible life, full of adventures, of terrible adventures. He had passed through crisis, through imprisonment, slavery, and so really his stories are extremely charming. And Desdemona, who should have been working with the mother, cleaning the house, doing other things, well, she always tried to come and listen to these stories. And Shakespeare uses the words, she devoured up my words. Dice Otello, divorava le mie parole. So this coy little girl instead is not so coy, is not so shy, and she wants to know, and she is absolutely charmed by Othello. So one day Desdemona asks Othello to tell her the complete story of his life, and Othello does it. And in that moment, Desdemona falls in love with him. and she is totally conquered by the terrible stories, and she's full of pity, and she cries, and she says, "Oh, I shouldn't have asked you to tell me your stories. They are too terrible." At the same time, she says, "I would like to be you. I would like to be a man like you." So Othello, who has been described up to this moment as the one who is different and who has to be somehow sent away, who is just used because is necessary for the republic, but not nothing more. Well, here he finds someone who would like to have his same destiny and to be like him. This is beautiful, a beautiful part. And when then Desdemona says something very, very nice and very tricky. She says, "Othello, if you have a friend who is in love with me, well, you just have to teach him to tell the stories you have just told me, and he would conquer me." So it is Desdemona who declares herself to Othello. And Othello says, "She loved me for the pain I have passed through, and I loved her because she did pity my life." So it's a sublime love. It's a love which is completely different from the sexual passion described by Iago in the first act. It is a love which is above the earth, which is really a meeting between two souls. When the Duke hears and the other senators hear these words, well, they say, "Well, your story, Otello, would have won my daughter too, anche mia figlia si sarebbe innamorata di te." So the Duke and the other senator understand Otello, and Brabantio can do nothing. Desdemona arrives, and she starts speaking. She doesn't speak much in this tragedy, unfortunately. She speaks just at the beginning, and she is a very strong girl. We said she's 14 years of age. Imagine. She arrives, she's in front of the Duke, of all the senators of Venice, of her father, who is a bit upset because she has just escaped with a black man, an old man, because Otello is much older than Desdemona. She is 14, he is probably around 40 years of age, 35, 40 years of age, so the difference is very big. And so the situation is not so easy, but Desdemona has no fear, and in a few simple words, she says to her father that she respects him, that she loves him, but that man now is the Lord, the Moor, her Lord, il Moro, il mio Signore. In this way, Desdemona is not only giving Othello her love, she's also giving him a social position in the society of Venice, a social identity. Othello is the man who is loved by the most beautiful, most important, the richest girl in Venice. So now he has really a place in that society. And then Othello has to leave immediately with the fleet, the Venetian fleet. And Desdemona says, "I want to go to Cyprus too. I didn't marry him to stay home. He goes fighting and I stay home. I want to stay with my husband." And so she leaves for Cyprus too in another ship together with Iago. Iago has just been defeated. He wanted to destroy Othello from the social point of view, but he was not successful. But he doesn't give up. Now he wants to destroy him in another way, and he starts planning his plot. The idea is, if I make Othello believe that Desdemona loves another man and betrays him, well, he will do something terrible. And this is the plan. Who is the man who can be loved by Desdemona? Well, Cassio. Cassio is a very handsome man. He's a man who has a lot of women. He's a man who is loved by women. So he's the best one. So the love between Cassio and Desdemona is the invention of Iago. And Iago decides to convince Othello. The second act opens with a storm. This storm destroys the Turkish fleet, and so Venice has already won the war against Turkey. But during the storm, also Othello's ship is lost. So at the beginning, we don't know whether Othello is alive or dead. Boito and Verdi decided to start the opera with the storm. It's a famous opening, this big thunders and lightings and the ship in the water. And we have to say something about the function of nature in the Elizabethan time, in the Elizabethan age. Well, it was a use different from, for instance, the Romantic period when nature had a soul of its own, had a teaching function for the characters and for the audience. Or also different from the use of nature in other periods when nature was just a landscape for the events. In the Elizabethan age, nature expressed somehow the feelings of the characters and was connected with their personalities and what was going on inside the characters. So here the storm anticipates the storm of feelings that is going to take place in Othello's mind. Uh, Desdemona and Iago arrive before Othello and they are met by Cassio, who is already on the island. And while Cassio and Desdemona speak, Iago looks at them and imagines something sexual in their relation, while while Cassio and Desdemona are simply speaking according to the rules of a courtly tradition. Cassio is the representative, the typical representative of a courtly tradition, la tradizione cortese. He is very kind, he speaks in a very nice way, especially to women, so it's absolutely normal. Instead, Iago starts imagining dirty things. Mm. Othello arrives, he is alive, Desdemona is happy, she was very worried before, and this is Othello's triumph. It is the moment, the climax, the positive climax of the tragedy. And it's very early because we are at the beginning of the second act. From now onwards, the fall of Othello starts. In Macbeth, the climax, the positive climax for Macbeth, was exactly in the middle of the tragedy. Here it's at the beginning, so the fall of Othello is very long and described in a very detailed way. During the feast organized to celebrate Othello's marriage and the victory over the Turks, Cassio drinks too much. He's obliged by Iago, of course. Iago organizes everything. He's a sort of playwright, of director of the situation, of the scene. So he drinks too much, and because of his drunkenness, he loses his position of lieutenant. So Iago has in front of himself the best situation. Iago convinces Cassio to go to Desdemona and ask for help in order to have Othello's favor back. So Desdemona starts talking with her husband about Cassio. Poor Cassio, he's so good. Poor Cassio, he's so sorry. And the suspect that Othello had, obviously provoked by Iago's words, starts to become stronger and stronger. Now let's go to the end because, well, of course, there are lots of details which are fantastic, but we can't really talk about everything. So, the final proof that Othello wants is represented by the famous handkerchief. That handkerchief had been given to Othello by his mother, his dying mother. It was the last present of the mother to the son, and it was a magic handkerchief, an handkerchief that had been made by a magician in Egypt, and in a very particular way, according to a particular rite, and granted the woman who had it and kept it by herself, granted her the love of her husband. Desdemona had always had her that this handkerchief with her. It was the first present that Othello had given her, but one day, unfortunately, it falls on the ground, and Iago, or better Emilia, Iago's wife, takes it and gives it to her husband because he had often asked her about that handkerchief. And she imagined he wanted to have the same drawing which was on the handkerchief taken by someone. And so she did it simply. Instead, Iago stole the handkerchief and put it in the house of Cassio. So Cassio finds this beautiful handkerchief, and carrying the handkerchief in his hands, he talks with Iago about women in a very rude way, vulgar way. And Iago has organized everything. He has led Othello hidden behind a window, and Othello sees what Cassio is doing with the beautiful magic handkerchief of his mother. So, this is the proof that Desdemona has betrayed him, and she has given Cassio the precious object, the precious handkerchief. And thanks to that, Othello decides to kill his wife. He suffocates her, and then Emilia arrives and says, "What are you doing? Where is my lady? Oh, my lady is dead." And she's desperate and she accuses Othello. And Othello says, "But it is your husband who said that." And suddenly Emilia understands. She understands that everything has been organized by Iago and starts screaming and accusing her husband. Then the other Venetians arrive, find Desdemona dead on the ground, and also Iago arrives and understands that Emilia is denouncing him. So while she is screaming and telling everybody the truth, he kills her. Othello then understands everything. He understands that he has killed his innocent wife. Everything had been created, organized, built by Iago, and he tries to kill Iago. But he doesn't kill him. He's just wounded, and Othello kills himself. Iago is taken away from the stage alive. This is very important. He's in prison, but he is not dead. And in the second part, we shall talk about all the details connected with this fantastic masterpiece.